is a podcast for people who are striving to find the balance between raising great kids and holding on to their creative passions that keep them sane.
I'm sorry, can we have you do it one more time? It sounds like the audio cut out twice.
Making Geeks is a podcast for people who are striving to find the balance between raising great kids and holding on to their creative passions that keep them sane.
Perfect. That's great. Okay. So this is episode 79, I believe. Are you guys set?
I'm ready to go.
Good.
Okay.
Hopefully my hard drive holds up.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode... Oh, crap. Let me start over again.
Hola.
There's always once. All right. Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 79 of the Making Geeks podcast. We are the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. Today, we have Mr. Mark O'Keefe with us.
What's going on?
Mr. Wes Swain.
Good evening, guys.
And we have a special guest today, taking Josh's spot since he's out with tummy troubles. We have Mr. Caleb Kraft, senior editor of Make.
Hey there.
Hey.
Good to have you on the show.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So what you guys been up to this week?
Looking forward to my day of work tomorrow.
Looking forward to.
Yes. Fridays are, we've been trying to get the schedule together, so Fridays are supposed to be my personal day of work. And it's supposed to go up to 46, so I could get some stuff done in the garage, and hopefully that includes finishing my X-Carve enclosure and maybe starting my 3D printer enclosure.
How long has that X-Carve project been going on now?
It's well over a year. Because I can't use it. Like any carve you use or any carve you do is more than a couple hours for the big one, because you want to do something big, and that thing is so loud, and it's in my basement, so I can't run that with a toddler trying to go to sleep. So.
Didn't you mention that there's also an issue with like the airborne dust by your furnace?
Yeah, the X-Carve final resting place is direct, like inches away from my furnace. So I never thought it was a good idea to start blowing wood dust into the furnace.
It's like a grain silo kind of situation, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to make a joke with something that happened recently, but it's still way too soon. But yeah, I don't need any explosions or fires or any of that. My house and furnace is old and crappy enough. So I'm getting the enclosure together so I can at least keep the dust down and then vacuum up as I go. But it's I'm slow. That's all really there is to it. I'm just incredibly slow when it comes to some of this stuff. And the other bad idea is the 3D printer enclosure I'm making is going to be out of wood. But that's me. Sean, what about you?
I am in the process of setting up a contest. And if anybody saw my Instagram story last week, my son and I started doing kind of like an impromptu build. Yeah, because his responsibility now, he's 8 years old, is now to take care of like all the cans and crush them. He could catch them in and save up for something. And we just on the fly came up with an idea of what about making like a can crusher. So he sat down and designed something all on his own. He pulled all the scrap out of my wood bin and we put it together. He did about 80% of it on his own, which was pretty cool. And thought, why not make this and open it up to a contest to everybody else? It'll officially be announced once the video is done. But we have some prizes and stuff that we're looking at giving away.
Excuse me 1 second.
Sure, we'll pause.
It's Elsa!
This was the quietest place in the house I could find, but unfortunately our furnace is back behind me here. I hope that's not kicking up too much noise in the mic.
I don't think I hear it.
Good.
I do. But I can grab a sample of that and eliminate most of it in the post.
Theo is arguably louder than the furnace. It's Elsa.
Maybe I'll
During
make
the summer, my laser cutter sits right next to my big CNC router, and I worry about, like, is my laser cutter gonna like have enough fine dust in it that it's just gonna ignite one day?
I think I'm gonna make Thea yelling out the stinger for the episode.
There you go.
Damn it, woman, why do you keep moving the fence?
Yeah, we won't include that.
It's not, surprisingly, given our situations, it's not that often that we have a kid interrupting us.
Well, my kids interrupt every night.
Well, not audibly.
No. I've tried to train them well.
They sneak in quietly.
Well, what you guys don't know is I mute my microphone the moment they open my door. And Kib, I don't know if you listen to the show much, but we had an episode, was it last Halloween, where my kids were whispering on the microphone, and I didn't know that it was coming out on the original track, and it freaked a bunch of people out that were listening to it in their car. Because you hear this little kid whispering faintly, going, "Daddy."
Nice. No, I actually was telling Wes earlier, I refused to listen to podcasts for a very long time. I've just started, so I've got a lot of catching up to do.
Well, if you get around to listening to ours, you could start probably like around episode 10. I think it might
Oh,
be
yeah?
might be okay. Yeah.
Right now, I started listening to Making It,
Yeah.
and I'm about 50 episodes into that.
Nice.
But I will definitely check this one out as well. I listened, I think I wrote an article about this one and a couple others when you guys started.
Yeah.
And I think I listened to one or two then.
I think I remember the mention. Yeah.
But generally, I didn't listen to podcasts because it was just really hard for me to find a balance. Like, I kept finding that I would stop working, or like I would need to go film or do something, and I'd put it off till the podcast was over, and it was eating up like big chunks of my time, you know. And I can't write while I'm listening to a podcast. But I've found a good balance lately, I guess. So I've been listening to more. Either that or I'm slacking off more.
It's hard to tell.
I wonder if I should kind of keep talking and make use of the time a little bit.
Well, we can get whatever, Caleb, whatever you've been working on this week. Include you in that just to, while he's away.
Sure.
And I haven't gone yet down that part either, so that works.
I've been working not on much because it's super cold here and it just drains all my motivation. Like, it was in the negatives all week. Even though I had like 2 weeks off, I barely did anything at all because I hate the winter so much. I'm just a big baby. But I've got this threshold in my house that's like 6.5 feet wide at a weird angle, and I decided I wanted to make a custom, like, I guess it's called a threshold, you know, where it goes from one floor surface to another. You have that little strip of wood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the surfaces is slate, and it's all different angles. And so I wanted to make a threshold that fit all the different angles on one side but was straight on the other. Kind of hard to explain, but I think I pulled it off. I like laid down paper and took a crayon rubbing and then made a template, and I made it. I'm not a good woodworker, and I find that every woodworking project I do, I sit back and look at it and go, this looks like crap. I haven't installed it yet, so we'll see. I'm making a video. We'll see. We'll see what I think about it. It's done, though.
Hey.
Yep.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. How about you? What are you up to?
Well, we just got hit with a little winter storm, which is pretty big for here in North Carolina. We got 6.5 inches, which is not typical. I can't remember the last time I got that much in at least 10 years, if not more. So the last, let's see, yesterday, today, and then tomorrow, all the schools are closed. I mean, this place gets shut down, sometimes justifiably so, but within, like, if you get an inch of snow, because a lot of times it'll, like, melt partially and then freeze, and ice is huge down here, ice problems all the time. So they play it super, super safe, because one time they didn't, and it was, like, midday, and they were late calling the schools, like, hey, schools, get out early, and they did that right when everything was freezing, and school buses full of kids were stuck on highways for, like, 8 hours, and they ran out of gas, and it was just, like, the biggest cluster you'd ever imagine. So they play it super safe to the point where people forget that, and they're like, oh, there they go again, canceling schools. I'm like, well, and there's also a big meme that popped up, I think it was like maybe 5 years ago. It shows like a snowscape like down a road, and you see all these cars like run off the road, and there's a fire in the distance. That's from Raleigh. Okay. And sometimes they'll like Photoshop in like a AT-AT or the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or something like that. And there's a woman in the foreground on her cell phone. And sometimes they'll like put a little caption like the job is done or something like that and have like an explosion behind her. That's from Raleigh. And that's only after, that's midday. I think they had like 2 or 3 inches. But it did that unfreeze thing as it snowed. So it covered it up and people were just getting off of work early and deciding to go sliding into everything because you can't really stop that. So I've been shoveling snow today, which is not the usual activity for me. So I haven't really got a lot of... Yeah, what's that?
You sore yet?
Not too bad. It wasn't really super wet. And I think it dried out in the last day. I waited a day and it kind of got a little more powdery, so it wasn't as heavy as I expected.
That's when you get a leaf blower.
It wasn't that. I tried that. It wasn't that light.
I got lucky like that once with our first storm. The second one, I was just like, yeah, no, that ain't doing anything.
And typically Wednesday is my most productive day for working on stuff during the week, during the daylight hours, because my kids are off either at school or with the grandparents. They take them that day. But because we had the snow, that didn't occur. So I've been tweaking on things and messing around while they're vegging out in front of the television while we're snowed in. So it's not only so many things you can do. So I've been continuing my little project where I have been weathering a Yoda toy. It's like 15 inches, 16 inches tall. It's like animatronic Yoda. It was like on clearance 2 years ago. And his skin is all green. It's like all one color silicone or latex. And I've been weathering it like a lot of the typical prop builds, where they weather like a gun. So I figure I'd do it to a character, and I'm shredding his clothes up and making him look all dirty. And I'm even going the extra mile, and I'm actually punching hair in the back. So I ordered a bunch of doll hair, which was super weird because now I'm getting all kinds of weird Amazon suggestions, and Etsy suggestions. But that's
Here's
going
some
pretty well.
Eyeballs we'd like to sell you.
And there's no way I can bring it up in casual conversation and have it not sound creepy, so I'm just rolling with it, So I'm messing with that, and right now he looks like a cross between Gandalf and Raiden, because his hair's like down to his middle of his back, which needs to be fixed. But yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. I never tried hair punching. It's cool.
How about you, Caleb?
What's that?
So what have you been up to this week?
Oh, just making that threshold I was talking about earlier.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you can include. I see what you did. You include that lead in for his clip.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So today we thought we'd talk a little Nintendo news because they had a fairly big announcement to a certain degree. I think it was yesterday at this point when it kind of blew up. And I think we'll let our resident Nintendo expert maybe kind of lead us into what this is all about.
It really came out of nowhere because they had like their digital press release thing that they always do, where they kind of go over their own games and go by their own drummer sort of thing, and they didn't mention it at all. And then like the next day they just came out of nowhere and said, hey, there's this other thing in typical Nintendo style. But basically they're releasing a pack with a game with several packs with several games But essentially, you make your own Nintendo Switch peripheral out of cardboard and other strings and rubber bands and other pieces of stationery. and they integrate with the Nintendo Switch controllers in different ways depending upon what pack you use. And they have, on the video, some pretty cool setups. At least, I don't know how many of them are tech demo-ish kind of things or how many are actual full games, but they had... Sorry. What the hell are you doing?
The reason I had to leave before was my daughter was yelling, so I went to go get her because she wanted to show me Elsa magic, and I picked her up and it didn't smell good, so I had to change her diaper, and
Okay.
I am now washing my hands because
That's good to know.
I smelled something.
I didn't hear the water, so it was a little bit
Yeah,
disconcerting.
that context is going to be helpful for anybody that watches a YouTube version of this.
Yeah. That's why I had it on mute, and I was just hoping nobody would say anything, but
I think that
I
made
tried.
it worse.
I tried to be helpful.
So we were talking Nintendo.
Yes. I have no idea where I left off. So basically, they have these packs, and they're allowing people to create peripherals for the Nintendo Switch that integrate with different games to experience new ways of interacting with games that haven't really been seen in this manner. A, being able to build your own peripheral, and B, like really creative, interesting uses of the tech that are in the Joy-Con controllers that haven't really been explored.
If that mech thing that they showed is real, that would be reason enough for me to buy a Switch.
It looks
Transformer
real.
thing,
Yeah.
that looked so much fun.
It's on Amazon. You can pre-order that one. That one's a robot pack.
But
Is that the one where it's like a backpack and you're
yes.
punching?
Yep.
I mean, this does open up just I can't even really like cut down the amount of things because I can see every single person on the planet in some way, shape, or form getting involved in this, whether it's Arduino, whether it's Lego, whether it's Izzy making some of this stuff out of plywood. There's a little robot company that I follow on Instagram, so it's basically like Warbots, BattleBots, but in no, not BattleBots, BattleTech, if anyone remembers that. So they have these little robots, and they did a post. They're like, Nintendo, you need to tell us how we can control our robots with your Switch stuff. So I think their idea was, because there's little cameras in the robots, put the vision on the camera and have you control it with the sticks, but you can actually control the little robot like you were the robot in the video game. And like I can't, like, yes, some people are right, it's a little gimmicky to do this with cardboard and a little pricey, but where they could potentially go with this is just I got no words. It's almost full virtual reality at that point.
I think that they might be building up expectations a little high with some of their marketing. If you look at the physical limitations of the controllers themselves on what they can track, I think people who especially like looking at the backpack thing, and thinking, it's going to track all my movements. And then you realize it's really like, this equals punch. Well, remember like when the Wii came out and we thought we were going to be doing all these actions and we realized that you could play tennis like this and you could bowl like this. And like, because it wasn't really tracking whether or not you were bowling. It was just tracking whether or not it felt the acceleration, right? Or the shift in tilt. I kind of suspect that as far as games go, it's going to end up just blowing over as a gimmick myself. But what I think it's going to do is it's going to spur like a whole genre of things that didn't exist until now, which are going to be people using it as a development tool. Because kind of like if you remember, people used to hack the Wiimotes to make whiteboards, like digital whiteboards. Like we're gonna see people making musical instruments and stuff. I think maybe using this stuff, like aside from the games, like kind of going outward. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of cynical whenever it comes to some of the tech, though. So
I think the marketing and I was probably subject to this too. I think that all adults saw this and went, "Oh my God, that'd be so cool to do." But if you look closer at the marketing, I think it's all featuring kids. I think this is really geared to kids. I was reading an article on IGN, and they were saying that this is more for kids, and that almost like imaginative play, but interacting or integrating video games into that. And Caleb, that's where I think it comes in with your comment about the it's not going to really match all the movements, but for a kid, their imagination should be able to kind of bridge that gap a little bit for those movements and make it feel like they're actually in this armored thing. Whereas adults, we're going to be endlessly critical of this thing, and it's not for us.
I wonder if there's also an element. I wonder if there's also an element for a lot of the people that are writing those articles like that. They're not intrinsically like what we consider like makers to the level that some of us may be, or some of us, other people that we may know in our little circle here. So they may not appreciate the potential of an adult appreciating it as much as a typical, off the street guy. I don't know. I mean, you could do 3D printing for all these different variants and make a actual robust keyboard instead of something that could be stepped on and destroyed accidentally by a, or torn up by a dog or whatever. So you can make like the version that the adults would expect, an actual peripheral that takes up dust and can't be recycled, and put it in a closet with all the other Nintendo light guns and swords and steering wheels and everything for the Wii that existed. Oh my gosh, so much plastic was wasted on those things. But is this like an answer to that that complaint? Is that we got all this crap that I can't use anymore? Well, you can recycle it, so it shuts them up. And then, if this plastic crap breaks, there's no way for me to fix it. Okay, well, you can use duct tape for this, And so I've seen a lot of these comments online, and like people aren't really countering with the proper things. Like, they say it's such a cheap material. Why would you use cardboard? And I'm thinking, okay, if it's for kids, what other material would you use?
Yeah,
it's like the most universally accessible material, especially if you're a kid. Like, they can't break out a welder or a 3D printer typically. Lego obviously is a platform unto itself, but
and it's modifiable.
Modifiable, exactly.
Like, easily modifiable. You could just look at it and be, I could cut a cereal box and fix this or modify it this way or whatever. I mean, even though I may have said some negative thoughts about it, I think it's a really cool initiative. Like, really cool. But yeah, that's really cool. I hadn't thought about that either. Yeah, we had tons of for the Wii, we had tons of little plastic things that, like, after the very first time they were used, they were never used again.
Yep.
And if it was cardboard, it'd be like, whatever. No big deal.
Recycle it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they said I think you pointed this out to me, Sean, that all of the designs for each pack are going to be available for people to download, so they can trace them out on other cardboard if they, get the first batch destroyed by a dog or whatever. So that's pretty cool. So it sort of shuts up a lot of those complaints that some people are like, scalpers are going to be buying all these cardboard packs and selling them on eBay for $200 a piece, which is a legitimate concern based on the prior history of some of the products. But I think that's a smart way for them to sort of embrace the open nature of cardboard, and it's interesting.
On the software side, though, I really hope, and Nintendo has a weird history with this, I really hope they kind of embrace the homebrew aspect. If they were able to open it up for people to kind of develop their own, not necessarily interface, but here is another way you could do this. Here's something else you can do, and really kind of embrace that inventiveness, almost like the spirit of the Mario Maker. But doing it that way, I think that you would give video games such a new life, and then have us embrace that with the maker movement. I think this really excites me for what is possible if they allow those certain things.
That's a good point. I did see an article. I forget what the actual title of the game is called, but apparently there is a game Nintendo's developing that is like a game builder, not specifically Mario, but sort of teaching, more low level like programming stuff, for more, maybe for kids or not, but
Nintendo version of
a
Minecraft.
Nintendo version of like the drag and drop programming languages with the little modules that snap into the others, and there's so
It's
many
probably
of them.
really
But
similar to what I teach right now. I teach like 3 different versions of it.
if you think like Mario Paint, but for programming, I mean it seems very accessible, and I mean I love that game as a kid. That was super influential to me as an adult. I mean, really, that's probably the first art mouse combo I ever had. I mean, it was Mario Paint.
I just went to a training last Friday that was teaching junior high kids Python, but it was all through like the block interface type thing and simple painting. So it's really easy to, kind of translate that to other formats. So what's it called? I don't think we ever really said the name appropriately.
Labo?
Labo, Nintendo Labo. Or Labo.
Labo?
That's the only... I really don't like the name. The name is
They
not
always
great.
do that, though.
Yes, they do.
Wii U, Wii... The Switch is the only one that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know, it could just be Nintendo Lab. Obviously, that's what it's supposed to...
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it isn't obvious. I don't know. But maybe something's always lost in translation.
It seems that way. What would be, like, well, I don't want to say game changer, but what would be the ultimate dream for something like this with Nintendo? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple things already, being able to 3D print, being able to all these different things. But from an adult perspective, if you had this in your hands, what would you do with it? Is there a game you'd want to adapt it for? Is there a certain application you'd want to use it for?
Like if the controller was opened up, sort of like the Wiimote was.
Sure.
Because I don't think it's at that state yet. I don't think they can do custom stuff like they could. I don't think it's a straight Bluetooth connection like the Wiimote was.
If we know Wes, he's going to control an X-Carve with it.
Backpack in some string. Man, that would be dangerous.
What if you can motion control the router with like your hand? It's kind of...
Wes will turn it into like a Johnny Mnemonic thing, or like pull it forward. Move
I've got a power
sideways.
glove. I might as well just use that too.
That
there
would be
you
cool.
go. Make a cardboard power glove.
That's a great idea, actually.
I don't know. It would be kind of nice if it had like a connection to if this then that, so that you could use the sensors on the I don't know what they're called, the
Joy-Con.
The Joy-Con.
Yeah.
If you use those sensors to send signals out to trigger other things, that would be kind of cool. I mean, you can kind of take the same concept of using the sensors to move the game character, but instead you could use it to trigger a text message that your package got moved, or to introduce kids to basically like the whole IoT concept by just being able to plop their Joy-Con in something and then do an if it wiggles, do this, or if the sensor picks up light, do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Send a message or beep or whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of potential there just in using those sensors.
I heard that the sensor, this was not news specific for this release, but the camera that's at the bottom of the Joy-Cons, they're, I guess it's not really that amazing, but maybe it is. Apparently, you can, in development, they said it can pick up hand gestures, like it's not like a super simple camera. I guess with the software as well. Like they mentioned,
It's got a
you can
depth
play like,
sensor in it.
well, it said you could play like Rochambeau with one, essentially. With another person, like if you're aiming at the person, it can recognize hand signals, hand symbols, and differentiate them.
So it
That's
almost sounds...
believable.
Yeah.
So are they like mini Kinect cameras then?
That's what I was going to ask. Because if that can sense, if that's got a laser depth sensor on it, you could potentially 3D scan something with it.
I don't know if it does or not, but just detecting a silhouette hand symbol I mean, we were doing that with webcams in the 90s.
True.
So, so I mean, it's not a surprise that it can. I have no idea if it can do any depth sensing. I didn't think it had that, but I haven't been paying attention.
I hope that it has more than silhouette technology, but but no Nintendo, I have no idea.
I think it's neat they're using so many different aspects of the controllers too, because they're using like the HD Rumble feature that hasn't really been used a lot in the games. Like they showed the guy like kind of walking, the little stick figure or cardboard cutout of a man, and the man might fall over, and they had like the little robot.
The bug thing, but there's what toys are those that do that already? The BristleBots.
The hex pods or something?
Yeah, Hexbots. Yeah, the Hexbots, BristleBots, whatever. Yeah, you put them like on a toothbrush and they just vibrate wherever you want to go.
But it's interesting if you can actually control the direction. Apparently, I don't know if it was that one specifically or another one where they had the camera facing outwards and the feed from the camera was going to go to the switch. So then you could like drive it under a couch, if it fit or whatever, under a table, and see the output of the video from the controller at the while it's driving the thing down the carpet or whatever. So it's interesting.
Neat. I love how everybody was waiting for Nintendo to announce like Nintendo Direct or their online store, and they go, "Oh no, here's cardboard."
Oh,
Here's a cardboard.
yeah.
Here's $80 cardboard. Go. All you people complain about your kids liking the cardboard box better than the toy. So here's the cardboard box.
Now the question is, did they make the cardboard taste a certain way, just in case the kids lick it?
Yeah. Dude, stop eating those Tide Pods and play with this cardboard box.
Oh,
That's another show topic altogether of just ranting about how stupid people are.
We don't have that much time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anything else going on in the world of geek that's worth kind of bringing up? So we're doing kind of a more short form episode here.
I have not seen the latest Star Wars, so no spoilers there.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm kidding. You can spoil it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Well, after you use it, you can listen to our hour and a half rants about it with Bob Clagett.
Okay.
I got super excited from news of CES. Intel upgraded the cameras they designed that was the Sense used for 3D scanning. That's what 3D hubs used to base the Sense 3D off of. And then I got crushed because the guy who reviewed it said in the new software development kit they removed the 3D scanning software. So I was like,
Huh.
So it would have doubled the resolution of the camera I'm currently using and tripled the color resolution. But so I got to wait on that one. But it's a really cool camera because what they said was if you used it for webcam, like if you're a Twitch streamer or something, what it can do is recognize you and erase the background so you don't need a green screen anymore.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping someone gets the software set up for those things because the cost jump for 3D scanning goes from a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, and there is nothing in the middle.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm using a Kinect right now, and that's not the greatest resolution.
Yeah, the thing that I'm using right now is basically the Kinect without the power. And I mean, you can get pretty good scans in it. The depth resolution is only 640 by 320. But the color resolution I think is 1280. But certain software like Skinect cuts down the RGB resolution, and I don't know why, but RecFusion lets you go full. So I mean, you can, with the right software, you can get pretty decent scans, but like light is involved too, and you can scan outside, but it has to be dry in an overcast day, and that's pretty much the perfect light for it.
Okay.
that ambient type lighting.
Yeah, that took a while for me to figure out because I was trying to scan stuff on like bright days, and the scanner's just like, nope, I can't see a thing, nope. And then one day I decided to do it when it was cloudy, and the scan came out almost perfect.
You need that even lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like the Kinect or the camera I'm using, they're like, $150 or something like that. And then it goes to the Sense, which is 400, and then the next one is 6,000, and then
Wow.
and then it goes to 19,000, 25, 28, and no, 28,000 is the highest I've seen. So there is absolutely no middle ground when it comes to 3D scanning.
So going back to the Nintendo concept, because I can't not keep thinking about it for some reason. Sorry, but
we're not surprised.
We know why. It's okay.
So when Nintendo released the Wii, it started like this whole new wave of like motion related gaming, right? You got the Move and the Kinect came out after that. Like basically all the other companies sort of took that lead and did their own kind of spin on it and went in their little direction based on the initial push from Nintendo. Do you think having, not specifically cardboard, but just having more novel interactions with their games, do you think that's going to be something the other game companies are going to follow suit on? Do you think they were just as flabbergasted in some ways as other people were, or what do you guys think?
I think Nintendo's on their own because I think Microsoft and Sony, even though, Sony's a little bit different because Sony has the PlayStation VR, the use of the Move controller, so they're still kind of invested in the whole motion thing. But I don't think Microsoft is going to go down the road again. They have a pretty solid fan base. They just need better games. I don't think the interaction is what they're missing. Sony, I don't think Sony will follow suit either because either they're PlayStation VR, I think they're going to invest in that. So I think that they all have like their clear territory to kind of explore on their own now. I think Nintendo is going to be the sole one right now doing this.
Nintendo always has been in pretty much a class on its own, though, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Like they built that fan
for better or
following
worse
in the 80s. So
I mean, Sega had some accessories, didn't they? Not as many as Nintendo. Nintendo had like the glove and the bazooka, but Sega had some stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Sega had 30. They had add-ons though.
They also had peripherals too. They had the Enforcer
they had the
gun
peripheral.
and
I don't know what that was.
The Enforcer was like the light zapper.
Yeah, they had a gun, they had some steering wheels. It was kind of like the basic stuff. Like here's a shooter game, here's a driving game. The driving game can be used for a flying game. That's about it. But Nintendo went all into everything.
So if you go way back, way back, I don't even remember what it's called, but one of the first consoles, like ColecoVision, kind of way back.
To say ColecoVision.
I don't remember which one it was, but one of the first ones, the games were actually stored in the input devices. And so, like, if you wanted to play tennis, you had a custom controller for tennis, and you plugged it into the console, and the game was actually stored in that. And then if you wanted to play, like, the Pong variant, you had a different controller for that, or football, there was a different controller for that.
The Odyssey?
And the games were actually tied to the accessories themselves.
Yeah, that was either like Odyssey or Vector or some really
Vectrex.
early
I think it was
one.
the Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah. They also had transparencies you would overlay on your screen and draw out additional graphics, like the football field lines or weird crap like that. It's pretty funny.
I think you're right though. I think Nintendo is probably kind of on their own with this exploration. It seems more
Nintendo-like.
It seems like they don't expect it to make a lot of money. Whereas all the ventures from Xbox and PlayStation kind of seem like they have to be more solid business decisions on their own, like to bring in revenue on their own as a device. Whereas I think Nintendo is more concerned about the overall message of Nintendo and the overall perception of Nintendo more, so that even if this is a financial loss at some point, it's a net gain because we tend to think of them as like the more playful, explorative
I like
one
that.
now.
The family safe and friendly game company.
Yeah.
Not always. Conker's Bad Fur Day was not exactly family friendly.
Well,
Well,
yeah, we have quite a few adult games coming out to the Switch now too. I mean, Doom is on Switch, and that's talk about a violent game. That's not family friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the overall perception is definitely fun
Yeah, the
above all
perception,
else. Yeah,
but
I'm
that's
still trying to
that's
hold
also,
off buying one.
just do it.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about games like Doom and Conkers, that was made for Nintendo, but it wasn't made by Nintendo. You know.
Yeah.
And most stuff made by Nintendo is the family-friendly stuff, but they let other people play on it because parents need to like the system too.
Yep.
I dig it.
Yep. So, what are you guys geeking out about this week?
Trying to remember my week before this announcement. What the hell was I doing?
I mean,
what was that question? I'm sorry.
What are you guys geeking out about this week? I mean, I assume that part of it is already what we've been talking about for Wes. I mean, the Nintendo thing.
I heard news that Spider-Man might end up in Venom. That's kind of neat if that happens.
Although I just read regarding that Spider-Man wouldn't probably appear, but Peter Parker would. I think
Either way, I mean, it's
Yeah.
still the companies kind of playing nice together finally, which would be nice to see.
Yep. I think isn't he the last character that Marvel does not really fully own again anymore?
Spider-Man?
Yeah. Because Sony
they-
Pictures.
Oh, yeah,
True.
that's right. They did get Fantastic Four back
Yeah, because that was Fox.
because that was Fox.
Beyond that little
Yeah, I
tentative
don't-
agreement, yeah, you're right. And the Hulk.
Yeah.
There's still the
Hulk's
weirdness
Universal.
about the Hulk, yeah.
Fox Universal.
For solo films, at least.
Yeah.
I haven't been geeking
Yeah.
out about any movies, but my 14-year-old is building a computer, and he's a very quiet and reserved kid, but he knows that I know computers. I was an IT administrator for 10 years, and he'll come up to me and he'll start talking, well, I've been looking at 1070s and the prices are coming down, or the 1080s and the prices are coming down. They've been up because of Bitcoin and now they're coming down, and I just love it. I love the fact that he's like opening up to me about this tech and we can speak the same language, right?
That's great.
But it's not like this forced, dad and son kind of conversation. Yeah.
I think that's great that at 14 you're looking at market changes and what's causing those changes, and
I know, right?
that is really, really awesome.
Yeah, he's on the ball. He's got it figured out. It's to the point now where if I needed to build a computer next week, I would just tell him, like, okay, go figure out what I need for this budget. Which is funny because I'd never really thought about the fact that would happen one day. But it will be faster for him to do it than it would be for me to go figure out what's hot and new.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to prep my son for that too.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Huh.
I'm geeking I'm geeking out about something somewhat dumb, but I still kind of hold out hope for it. There's talks again about making a Masters of the Universe movie.
Yes, I saw that.
I have no real expectation of it being good. I really don't, because the cartoon really was not even that good. But I think
The updated cartoon was fun.
I never
weird.
watched it. I just
Sure,
want
it was nice.
something. I will go for fun and entertaining as opposed to good. I mean, it's a weird storyline, anyways. It's all for nostalgia's sake.
Okay, I'm way out of the loop. Masters of the Universe, was that He-Man?
He-Man.
They did a movie at one point, didn't they? In like the 80s?
They did, but most of us are trying to erase it from our memories.
Dolph
that's
Lundgren, yeah.
And that kind of partially relates back to a conversation that we're supposed to have once Mark sees the
No, I
Netflix
saw
show.
it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
So we'll talk about it more in detail later on. But they talked about the movie in the one episode about He-Man, so we'll kind of revisit this next week or the week after then. Because I know
on that Netflix show about
Yeah.
Yeah,
toys.
the
Yeah.
toys
I
that
haven't
made
seen
us.
it yet.
Very good.
I
The
highly
only one I
recommend
haven't.
it.
The only one I haven't watched was the Barbie one because Tracy wants to watch that with me.
Surprisingly good. I learned
It is
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
It is good. Now we just have to wait for the last 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think they're gonna be?
Well, I already looked it up. It's
Yeah,
already
the-
announced.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't. I couldn't find that.
It's a Lego,
Hello Kitty.
Transformers,
Mhm.
and one more I can't remember.
They
Sounds
could
about right.
really do. They could really go on with that for
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a while.
My wife was really disappointed though because you want a little bit like to be a little bit equitable between like the male and female geared stuff. And when she saw Hello Kitty, like, Hello Kitty, really, out of all things, they should have done like Rainbow Brite or Care Bears or something. And I don't know.
Cabbage
even
Patch Kids. Yeah.
Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah.
There you go. There you
That
go.
seems
That was-
more influential, at least on the Western culture.
Yep.
I could be wrong though.
Yep.
Teddy Ruxpin.
Well, I can't imagine that they'll just stop doing it because I would imagine this is more of a test run for them. Like how well does it do? How many people watch it? If they do a lot, we'll do season 2 with another 8 things. And
That should
Did
already
they
be
talk at all
confirmed.
about My Buddy?
No, but that would actually be really interesting too.
Kid
I
Sister.
think-
My
they-
Buddy, Kid Sister, My Pet Monster.
There's so many.
I know that there's a certain appeal to do the ones that were just popular, but at some point I think they have to chase the ones that were the most interesting stories, because I think that's what really made it interesting to watch is the story behind it, not necessarily the product itself.
Dude, Cabbage Patch Kids had a crazy interesting start.
I know nothing about it.
It's
Spoiler alert.
yeah, it's people stealing stuff. And, oh, this is crazy. And I didn't think of that from such an innocent baby toy.
Did you guys have Cabbage Patch Kids?
Yes.
No.
I had a Cabbage
I had a
Patch
My
Kid.
Buddy.
I had a Kusa, which was like the Cabbage Patch Kid pet. It was like half human, animal, weird thing. But
That's weird, dude.
yeah, well, it was 5.
I had a My Buddy, and when the movie Child's Play came out, that thing it got clamped in a vise and sawed into pieces, and
So you were Sid from Toy Story.
involuntarily, yeah. No, Child's Play ruined that toy for me.
After we sign off, there's a comedian who does a bit similar to that. Remind me of it because it's hilarious.
All right. So we ready to start wrapping it up?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we would love to hear from all of you. Visit our website, makinggeeks.com. Check out the contact page. Drop us a question, suggestion for the show, anything you like. And on the homepage, you can listen to all of our past episodes with all of our awesome guests we've had, just like today's Caleb Kraft. So go ahead and visit that website, makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us across all the social medias on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast, on Twitter and Facebook at Making Geeks.
And we'd like to give a special shout out to our patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks. Thank you for keeping the lights on and helping us help fund new adventures that are hopefully upcoming this year. Maybe in the Bay Area. I don't know. Just tossing that out there. But if anybody wants to help us with these goals, just head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks, and you can join Seth Williams, who's our top patron, and maybe steal that title from him. I'm sure he's getting sick and tired of being the top patron. But thanks to all you guys for your support. We appreciate it.
And so I guess I get to do Josh's part now.
Yep.
And you can find out more about us and see all of our work at Asylum Designs on Instagram, Twitter, and Thingiverse. Or visit geeksmithing.com for all of Wes's goodness. Or all of my work you can find on geekbuilders.net. And where can we find out more about you, Caleb?
You can just Google my name, and I will come up page after page after page, or go to makezine.com to see what's going on at Make.
Well, that's quite the status to have. Just Google my name. But rightfully so. Rightfully so. I've been a fan of your work for quite a while now, so I'm glad to have you on the show.
Kraft with a K.
Thanks.
When
Thanks
you're
for having
Googling.
me.
Yes.
Does it autocorrect with a K if you don't? Are you sure?
I don't know. Maybe
Are
I
you-
should buy that domain name. With the C.
Hopefully, the Kraft company doesn't have any kind of issue with that.
I haven't said anything so far.
And could not be a more perfect name for what you do either. But I'm sure you've heard that before. That's
Yeah.
probably new.
A few times.
Yep. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We have new episodes every Saturday. And I forget what else Josh says.
Well,
Just wrapping it
thanks,
up.
Caleb, for coming on. First off.
Thanks for having me. It's always nice to geek out.
Well, it's an open invitation. Anytime you want to come back on, we'd love to have you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. You guys have a good night. Have a good week,
Have a good
everybody.
weekend, everybody.
Take care.